Look in My Direction by Miss Choco Chips. For the longest time, it wasn't even an issue. Longa and Reki would hang out at school and work and their special skate park. Then at S, they'd still be together, but would also temporarily split up and do their own thing. Learn separate tricks that they'd show each other at a later time once it was just them again. Then the takedown happened. Police patrols were getting closer to finding the secret behind S, which in turn forced everyone to scatter for the time being. Adam being publicly arrested had certainly made things harder. Not that anyone would actually complain about it. Not after everything he'd done to the skate community as a whole. So to lay low was their only shot at keeping S safe and hopefully getting it back on track someday. This all translated quite strangely into Longa's personal life. Joe, Cherry, Shadow, Mia, they were all his friends, he'd say. Not as close as Reki, but again, no one would ever get that far in his heart besides the redhead. But still friends. And yeah, he missed skating together with everyone. So when Reki suggested inviting them all to their hangout spot in the park, he was actually a bit excited. It would be fun, Reki said, and for a while it really was. Then, "Hey Slime, look at this." "Reki, look!" Both voices calling up from opposite sides of the skate park. Silence from all sides, while the mentioned voice snorted. "I can't look at both of you at the same time, guys. Who wants to show me first?" Silence again. Green and blue eyes meet over Reki's head, first in surprise, then in subtle challenge. A beat, then two, and Longa looked away first. Mia's smile was a tad too satisfied as he called to Reki again, effectively gathering his attention. One would think that'd be it, that it was a one-time thing. But then, a glance at the foreigner's frown and tight fists, and yeah, this wasn't going to be the end of it. Joe and Cherry glanced at each other in apprehension, and Shadow face-palmed. "Oh, this is going to be just great." By all logic, Longa should get Reki's attention the next time they have to dispute it, considering Mia had claimed it that day at the park. But selfish bratty catboys don't care for logic or fairness, Longa learns. "I don't like this type of movie," comments Mia, the little demonic shit, hugging Reki at the waist and doing his best impression of a human boy with an actual soul. Okay, he was a little bitter, so sue him. "You could always leave," Longa points out. Reki doesn't even try to scold him, used to his bluntness, but he does shoot an exasperated look his way. It's not as nice as his awe-filled, warm looks, but it does take his eyes from Mia. So Longa decides beggars can't be choosers, and shrugs to add to his insolence. "Come on, dude, don't be like that. We rarely hang out with Mia outside of skating. We can choose a different one." Longa wants to point out that Reki's been waiting to watch this movie for weeks now, but then Mia is pointing at a horror film on display, skillfully manipulating Reki into getting him to buy the tickets, and he thinks, "I can work with this." An hour later, and Reki's hanging on to Longa for dear life, hands around his arm like it's the only shield between him and the monsters on screen. When the other boy hides his face in his neck, warm breath fanning against smooth skin and soft red hair tickling Longa's nose, he dares to look at the teen sitting by Reki's other side. Mia's arms are crossed, and he's looking back at Longa like he wishes he was the main character currently being eaten by the monsters. "Payback's a bitch, isn't it, you little brat?" he thinks, his free arm patting his friend's head in comfort. "Reki, where are you?" "I'm at your house. Your mom said you went out?" "Hey, sorry. Mia called me half an hour ago. Said he needed my help." I think you might want my advice for something. He finally recognizes my big brother potential, Longa. This is so cool. Oh, gotta go. He's noticed I'm on my phone. Talk to you later. That slimy little fucker. This was war. Longa thought he had the higher ground when Mia joined them at Recky's workshop. He'd been in his house before, basically had the home field advantage. Turns out he didn't. But neither did Mia. Kiyomi had found them halfway through their little tug-of-war for Recky's attention, both trying to direct him to look at their respective skateboards. Mia had been complaining about his cover being damaged, which it wasn't, and Longa was a second away from snapping his own wheel off in a desperate last move. He thinks he should be embarrassed that his friend's younger sister was watching him like this, and her judgmental eyes did make him feel bad, but not bad enough to stop. Not that he had the chance to do so. Brother, I think Nanika's chewing on something. She won't tell me what it is, though, she says, arms casually crossed, shoulder leaning against the doorframe. She doesn't even raise her voice, but Reki still startles at her words, basically jumping to his feet and dashing out of the workshop. Nanika, come here this instant! What do you have there? Chihiro, did you see what she ate? Spit it out! Spit it out now! Mia and Longa stared at Kiyomi. The girl shot back an unimpressed look, her raised eyebrow basically impressing on them who was alpha. Get on my level or leave my battlefield, boys, she told them, cool as a cucumber, and turned around to follow after her siblings. Needless to say, but neither boy tried to compete for Reki's attention at his house again. They were at the skate park again, the rest of their little mesh of a group around them. Cherry and Joe seemed deeply engrossed in their own conversation, with Shadow occasionally adding his 2 cents. They were speaking about college? Or something like that. Longo heard his own name and Reki's being mentioned more than once, but refused to focus on that. He had other things to think about, like how to get Reki's attention back, for example, and whether or not it was morally okay to throw hands with a 13-year-old. Longa had never thought of himself as a violent one before leaving Canada. But, again, he had also never considered the idea of jumping down a hill with nothing between him and pain except for a piece of wood with wheels attached. Knowing Reki had made him realize quite a few things about himself. Another new development? He was, apparently, not above playing dirty. And he could and would make desperate moves if the situation called for it. Still, the little voice in his head that worried about things like wounds and self-preservation, it sounded a lot like Reki, too, made him stop for a few seconds. Did he really want to do this? Mia's laugh on the other side of the skate park, as he teased Reki until he went red in the face about something he was too far away to listen in on, made the decision for him. Without further consideration, Longa purposefully distributed his weight just a tad off and threw himself off the halfpipe. The pain when he bailed and face-planted against the concrete floor was expected, but the sound of feet rushing in his direction and Reki's concerned voice soothed it soon enough. He thinks he hears Joe sigh and Cherry's low, "This is getting out of hand," but a pretty boy is carefully touching his face, checking for injuries, so he dismisses everything but that. Oh, hold on. Pretty boy? Longa's mind stops as he considers whether or not the hit was hard enough for a concussion. He half-heartedly moves when Reki tugs him towards the bench where he left his backpack with the first aid kit, his hand warm against his own cold one. Yes, Reki is pretty, his brain agrees, once they decide there's no head trauma in play here. And he's a boy, his gay heart also confirms. Well, that's an idea. S is functioning again for the first time in months, and none of them would miss it for the world. Longa's day had been perfect already. That with sharing classes and then working with Reki, no middle schooler getting between them, and the idea of racing with him down those familiar paths made his heart beat even harder. That he got to feel Reki's chest against his back as he drove them both to S was a nice plus. So, of course, it all went to shit when they got there. Fucking Mia was waiting. Hey, Snow, I'm challenging you to a beef. That was unexpected. Damn, Mia, let us at least get off this thing first, complained his friend behind him, hands using Longa's shoulder to steady himself as he jumped down, then offering one of them to Longa for help. He didn't really need it, but he wasn't going to refuse either. Chinan's frown added to the pleasure of Reki's warm contact. And, well, Longa did want to compete a bit tonight, get his blood pumping, draw his friend's awestruck eyes to himself, maybe. But he wanted to skate with Reki more than anything else, too, so what would we be beefing for? Mia's eyes darted to Reki for half a second before jumping back to Longa. And, yeah, all right. I'm in. Wait, what was the bet again? I didn't hear the prize. None your business, shrugged the younger boy. Longa thought it wasn't very polite of him, but he also didn't want to admit to his friend that he was going to literally race against a younger kid for his attention, so he ignored Reki's confused eyes too. The race was a close one, to be honest. Mia had been practicing, his time as a pro more devoted to techniques than Longa's more casual enjoyment of skating. And the little shit wasn't above cheating, a side effect of spending so much time with Shadow, as shown when he'd throw sly comments to distract Longa mid-trick. But he had the added incentive of Reki's focused attention, so he won in the end. And when Reki ran to him at the finish line, bright eyes and smiles splitting his face in half, Longa felt his heart speeding again. Huh, he thought. Pretty boy, his head agreed. Our pretty boy, his gay heart swooned. Longa liked the sound of that. So much, in fact, that he sealed the deal the moment Reki was within arm's length, capturing him in a firm, insistent kiss. And when Reki's tense body melted in his arms, his own hands going to Longa's hair and breathy little noises escaping his throat between kisses, Longa as his sole focus, he realized there were better ways to keep Reki's attention on himself. That's cheating, Longa! Arms going around Reki in a firmer hug, he ignored the shrilly voice behind him. All was fair in love and war. And even if it wasn't, Mia had cheated first.